Do all American elevators have a stop button? Yes, all American elevators have them by LAW. They are for emergencies now and will set off an alarm, and if the elevator has a phone in it, the fire department will call. Old elevators just had a stop button, but those also usually had a person that was controlling the lift for you. Old buildings that had them, people would stop them to have sex sometimes, so the rest of the building would start yelling if anyone needed to use it. Now for those that said no, next time take a look when in an elevator. The button will be RDD. I lived in old commie block for many years and we had a lift without inside doors, only outside ones. They had the stop button because, having open moving wall next to passenger compartment is potentially dangerous. I've pressed the stop many times, it just stopped. To continue you ought to select floor again and it would go. There also was an alarm button. Since it was, old commie block, it only rang loud bell. No connection with real people. I pressed that one too, many times. They have an emergency stop button. Now that you say that, I don't recall seeing a stop button, though I'm sure there is for emergencies. Do elevators in other countries not have an emergency stop function? This can't be safe, just having the ability to bring the building's fastest mode of transport to a grinding halt. At my place of work, if someone wanted to bring an elevator lift to a stop, they'd need an engineer's key and a bloody good reason. I've been in many elevators and have never once had a person stop the elevator. Landing doors also have locks. You cannot just pry one open. There typically is an emergency stop button. Whether it's required is a building code issue, which can vary not only from state to state, but for various city jurisdictions. Not sure about LA. Typically, that stop button at the very least calls building security. I know of more than a few that auto-dial the local fire department. Pressing it for fun is a good way to end up getting jail time for something or other, I'm sure. As to danger, the idea of emergency stop buttons on any equipment is the equipment may present a danger in itself. With elevators, the attitude is absolutely, well, the stairs are there. I work in IT, it's common for us to put battery backups on servers. But in some places, we have to wire these systems to an emergency stop button. So we go through huge amounts of effort to ensure systems will stay running during a disaster. But there's a big red button and if anybody touches it, Humpty Dumpty is going down. There are clearly a number of people or bots posing as Americans here and spreading disinformation. To what end, I don't know. Yes, elevators have stop buttons. Anyone saying otherwise is lying. Again, strange. It's an emergency stop, so yes, it stops the car quickly and no, people just don't randomly hit it. It's labeled emergency stop, so people treat it as such. All elevators do have a stop button. Currently in Canada, at least the stop button is inside the fire panel for use by firemen. Older elevators have a big red button, and that got changed to a key switch. Yes, legal requirement. Often used by fire departments when they perform inspections, etc. There is a lot of misinformation here. In the old days, elevators were manufactured with emergency stop buttons, because like any other piece of heavy equipment, people expected a way to stop them if something went wrong. Eventually, it became apparent that there is virtually no situation where you would be safer by trapping yourself inside the car between floors instead of just letting it open the doors at the nearest floor to let you off. So lifts manufactured after 1975 no longer included an emergency stop button, and older units which have been refurbished aka modernized have had the buttons removed. However, movies rarely portray elevators accurately, and it's still a common plot point in some shows. tvtropes.org wiki.php main elevator conference. They all have a way to stop them, but they don't stop between floors. It is sometimes disabled or key locked on passenger elevators. Service elevators often have it usable, so that you can, for instance, open the door, hit the stop, roll in a cart of food trays, go back out, put in another load, and load in 3 carts or whatever. In buildings that use the same elevator for service and passenger traffic, it does, indeed, bring everything to a slowdown. But that is just how it is. Also, on service elevators, you occasionally run into a door close button that closes the door. This throws people badly, because they are just standing there wondering why the door isn't closing. 99.9% of door close buttons aren't connected to anything. But elevator button panel makers put them on anyway for that 1 in 1,000 elevator which stays open until you say otherwise. In practical terms, that is supposed to do something similar to the stop switch. I don't know about all, but most do as a part of fire code. Modern ones are keyed, so only the fire department can use that part of the control panel these days. Older elevators may just let you hit the stop button. I've seen it both ways. The funny part is that they have close door button too, but most are not wired and so don't work. Trains also have emergency stop buttons that passengers can push in an emergency. Do they have those in UK, Europe? It was just a plot device. It's not usually a thing. The closest thing to it is an alarm button, which is normal. Maybe since some of the floors were under construction they added one, and I could see that being a possibility, but otherwise no normal elevators do not have that. No, absolutely not. I've seen them, but they are very rare. I don't live in the US or nowhere near it. But both my building and my grandma's have elevators with stop buttons. I think in my grandma's case it's a switch, not a button. But whatever, and at least mine also has a button that rings a bell in case you get stuck.